Social media is the place for people to shine, for personal stories, for opinions. Beyond anything else,
you really need to build relationships, you really need to build trust with whatever you do.
I write content, something moves in the heart of the reader, and I reach out to the reader and we form a relationship, and then something happens.
There are thousands of ideas that you can grab in a few minutes. My favorite ones are those that are literally the words of my clients.
It's possible to get leads from organic content.
Hey Ophir, welcome to the Nomad Solopreneur Show.
Hey Gabe, it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet you face to face because we have been interacting on LinkedIn and I do feel like I know you, but we've never been face to face. So it's a great occasion for me.
Likewise, honored to have you here. And indeed, isn't LinkedIn fascinating? Like you feel you know other individuals after connecting for a while, interacting with their content, chatting in DMs, and you realize at some point, oh wait, we never actually talk face to face or online and so on. And yeah, it's great to finally got that chance and can't wait to dive into your journey and learn from you because you have so much knowledge to share.
Sure, with pleasure. I'm here to share knowledge and, insights and also emotions because it's not just logic LinkedIn. I think it's primarily emotional and, LinkedIn has a music to it. And so I'm going to share everything. Whatever you ask me, I'm going to answer.
Like an open book. Let's get into it. And on that note, if someone is tuning in right now and they were like, why I should listen to this conversation? What would you tell him or her?
Yeah. If they're interested in DIN, then they should listen to this conversation because there are two people who are natives to the platform. You said that LinkedIn is not a real place, but for me it is. I practically live there and I spend there a lot of hours, not just in my profile, but also for the founders and CEOs that I serve. I manage their profiles and I write their posts, I engage on their behalf, and I know the platform from all sorts of angles. So, for anyone who wants to know LinkedIn beyond the generic advice, this is the call for you.
Nice. That's a strong enough reason. And I love that perspective of LinkedIn being a real place. And I bet it is for you because indeed spending so much time there, not only for you, but for your clients as well, can an online world can be transferred and transformed into a real place. And on that note, how does a day by day look to you?
We are in the Nomad Solopreneur show. So clearly, I'm a digital nomad, and I wouldn't turn into a digital nomad without LinkedIn. I think this is the point here. It's not that LinkedIn is one platform out of many that I use to promote my business. LinkedIn is my business. I am a ghostwriter and a personal brand builder. It means that I am managing the LinkedIn profiles for the founders and CEOs, like I said earlier. And it means that I'm interviewing them like a journalist does. I am writing their content. I am building relationships on their behalf with their target audience and with other people that they want to build connections with. So I do it by commenting and engaging. And so you can imagine that every single day I would spend 8 hours, not on my profile only, 8 hours on, let's say, seven profiles in total. Seven because it's mine and also the profiles of my clients. And so I'm sitting a lot and writing. And that writing generates income. And that income that is done fully remotely, it enables me to be right now in Georgia, the country, not the state. And prior to that, in Mauritius. And so every quarter, I move from one country to another. One thing doesn't change: what I do for a living and how I work. And so this is consistent throughout my routine. And then on the weekends, I don't work at all. I don't touch the LinkedIn profiles of clients. What I do on the weekends, I go travel, I go hike, I go explore the country that I'm living in.
And that's the one of the biggest perks of having a remote job that can be done literally from anywhere. And LinkedIn definitely it's an open door for many ghostwriters like you who took this opportunity to both hands and turn it into a fulfilling job and a lifestyle business. Because at the end of the day, if you are just sitting at our desk and work all day, doesn't really mean anything for us. But if you mix that together with the life that we desire to live, that's amazing. And you're the living proof. Like, when did you start? A few months ago, if I'm not wrong, right?
I became a nomad 6 months ago, and I opened my business 2 years ago, which is another important angle to share with the listeners, with anyone who is tuning in, that a digital nomad must build their income stream way before they turn into a nomad. So for me, it's not like I opened my business and turned into a nomad, because running a business and learning how to do that, that's coping on its own. And being a nomad, even though it's fun, you need to adjust to a new country every single time. So you need to have your business figured out before you are also coping with getting to know the country, the surroundings, and starting to get familiar with it.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point because at the end of the day, it's not easy. Even that it looks like an ideal lifestyle, it's not easy as you mentioned. You need to adapt. You need to rebuild your habits in a new place, new environment, new culture. I don't know, chasing for the looking for the next place to buy your groceries or a place to work from, a stable internet connection, and a bunch of other things. So definitely you need to have your business figured out before you do that. And you did the right thing to wait until your business was streamlined and bringing consistent clients rather than chasing, I don't know, tweaks into your business, making tweaks into your business during the nomadic lifestyle. But in the same time, of course, things can change and you need to adapt. And I'd like to ask you, in these 6 months, do you feel any difference or changes in the way you approach work? And of course, making the most out of your time in a new country?
I do. I do. I feel like before turning into a nomad, work was important, but the epicenter of my life was the routine. Going to the regular cafe that I'm sitting in, meeting my friends, meeting my family, and, CrossFit. That was like the center of my life. And my work, my ghostwriting, it's true that I chose to run a business, but it wasn't the main thing that preoccupied my thoughts. But as a nomad, if I wouldn't have this remote source of income, because that's what it is, even though it's a business, let's call the child as it is. It is a remote based source. So I am thinking about the work as the main thing, but also about the nomad lifestyle as the thing that I want to maintain. So I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, how do I make my income consistent to a level that can support my nomadic lifestyle, the travels that I want to do, certain countries that I want to live in, and so it's always there in the background. And I would say another thing, that in my case, my personal branding isn't detached from my business. It's not like there is a channel called LinkedIn and it's merely one of the channels. I have, of course, a newsletter as well, and Facebook page. But for me, LinkedIn is like the main channel because that's what I do for a living. It's like a soccer player who plays soccer even when they don't have to. So for me, the personal stories that I share in my LinkedIn profile are about my experiences as a digital nomad. And obviously, I wouldn't be able to share those if I wouldn't live that lifestyle.
Yeah, that's the thing because you have to interconnect those. At the end of the day, humans resonate with other humans. And if you don't share our personal experience, the things that we're going through, the life that we live, it's so hard for others to resonate with us or even to dream of being in our shoes. Because at the end of the day, that's another thing. Like at the beginning, when I started my journey, I was afraid that my clients were might be concerned by the fact that I'll be full-time digital nomad on different time zones constantly, and they might think that I don't know, I'm not fully focused and stuff like that. until I start getting messages and seeing their smiles in our calls, because they were really happy to see me living my dream. And all that only added up to the way I served them and so on. Did you had any similar experience with this when it comes to transitioning and your clients seeing you differently?
I have one client whose dream has been to become a digital nomad. They cannot do that because they are parents, they have children, and even though they work remotely and they run their company remotely, their wife and of course children have other obligations, so they cannot turn into nomads themselves. So when I told them that I'm turning into a nomad, they were glad. They were happy beyond the roof to hear that. And ever since then, our bond has strengthened. And this has been the client that I generated the most deliverables for. For instance, they hired a sales manager thanks to my posts. And so it's not only that they hired an employee, but that employee also generates revenue. So you can absolutely connect that to what I'm doing for them on LinkedIn. And with other clients, they are anyway overseas. When I was in my home country of Israel, I was already working with Europeans and Americans, so we already had a time gap and they didn't care anyways. And so now when I'm telling them that I'm a digital nomad, they're intrigued, but it's not like it interrupts them in any way.
And that's the beauty of asynchronous communication and at the end of the day work. We're not living anymore in those past time. I mean, you have to go to the office, you have to be between certain time and certain time there live doing the thing. You can do it at your own convenience if you deliver. And that's something, unfortunately, a lot of companies still don't understand, that humans can be more productive if they also enjoy their life rather than staying for hours commuting, or I don't know, spending less time with their families and such. Of course there are always exceptions and there are always challenges that comes with working remotely or from home, but I feel like at the end of the day, those that truly took with both hands that opportunity when the pandemic hit, because as any bad thing came with opportunities, and the remote work start to get steam. And look, a lot of companies took full advantage of that. They don't spend, I don't know, enormous amounts of money on expensive offices or spending a lot of time in meetings and stuff like that. And on that note, when it comes to the remote work movement and digital nomadism and such, do you encounter individuals who are working remotely for themselves or for other companies? What's the average so far?
My girlfriend, who is with me here, is also a digital nomad and she is working for a company. I have my business. So we are a microcosmos in a way of the both ways one can become a digital nomad. And from what I've seen thus far, I've been in two countries, in Mauritius and in Georgia. In Mauritius, usually you have more people who work for a company. You have people working, let's say, for a French company, but they're living in Mauritius. And in Georgia, you have a lot of like business owners or solopreneurs who work remotely. Some come from the States, other come from Russia or Ukraine or Eastern Europe in general. And from what I saw in the broader digital nomad community on LinkedIn specifically, most of the nomads run their business.
That's an interesting aspect. And I specifically ask that because, from my experience, most those that I met around the world, and indeed, I kind of went to the hot nomad spots like Bali, Madeira, Chiang Mai, and most there, they were remote workers. And I personally crave the entrepreneurs, digital nomads, because at the end of the day, are like minded. We kind of think the same rather than those that work remotely. They working on those things, but they probably cannot provide either feedback or insights into other people's businesses or help each other or partner and so on. And for me, it was quite hard to find them. So few from those that I met are running their own business that it's super surprising. And I don't know, I feel like you're lucky because you met them. And in the same time, I'm even thinking to kind of build a small community of like-minded individuals that are remote workers or digital nomads, but more digital nomads that run their own business, because those people put together can literally leverage their own knowledge and others' knowledge in order to move forward easier and have that accountability and so on.
Yeah, accountability. And also, nomadpreneur, I invented a new word. Nomadpreneurs are far more accountable for their business because their nomadism depends on that income. It depends on their business. And so, they are really committed. You know that they must have systems and knowledge that enable them to get to that situation in the first place. Otherwise, you just cannot run a business. You wouldn't be able to function properly as a nomad without that business knowledge. For me, it is mostly business oriented and less, let's say, employment oriented. Even though my girlfriend, of course, has a different choice and she's working for a company. For me, if I would be given a choice to be a nomad who works for someone else or not be a nomad at all, I would choose not be a nomad at all because I don't want to work for someone. I want to work with someone. That's the main difference, I would say.
And that's an important one. I heard a lot of people saying, I won't go back to my full time job because I don't want to work under someone. But I feel like you mentioned, in most cases, a full time job, it's been seen on, I have this job, I have to do it because someone is telling me what to do. But at the end of the day, even in a full time job, you can get at a point in which you are seen as a valuable asset and someone that works with not maybe the business owner, but with someone in an executive role to move the business forward. But even more so, when you work for yourself, you have that chance to be seen as a partner. And I think that's the big difference from those that they are literally freelancing and just finishing gigs after gigs, from those that actually run a business as a partner for the clients, like you do, because you have a huge impact in your clients' businesses with the work that you do, not just completing some tasks for them. And I think that's the biggest, let's say, takeaway people should get when they think of what to do, how to serve, and how to choose my clients. And speaking of that, what approach do you have when you choose your clients?
So for me, I have this concept of ideal client, and it's very common on LinkedIn to talk about ideal clients. But for anyone who doesn't know, ideal client is the definition of, let's say, a persona that you can get the best results to and that you'll have a great time working with. So it's a combination of personality, behavior, money, and problems that this person faces. So for me, the ideal client is a founder or a CEO of, let's say, a tech company. It can also be a marketing agency or a recruitment agency, one of the three primarily. We're talking about companies that have at least 10 employees. So there is a team. It's not a solopreneur, there is an organization. We're talking about a founder that realizes they must have a personal brand, a strong personal brand to have an omnipresent and an online reputation that will build relationships for them. And then those relationships will translate into clients, into talent, into podcast invites, conference invites, and so on. They don't have the time to run that LinkedIn profile and they don't have the know how because they're not marketing professionals and not specifically LinkedIn professionals. And these founders, they invest thousands of dollars, in my case, $2,000 per month for the service. And so these are the people that I've decided that I'll work with. These are the people that I work with in the form of a retainer, of a ghostwriting retainer. And in addition to that main high ticket offer, I also have low ticket offers. And the goal there with, let's say, my consultation calls, in which someone pays me $300 to get done for them LinkedIn strategy, is to get more social proof, more money. And you can say that it's like a cherry on top. It's as if the ghostwriting is the cake and then the consultation is the cherry. So this is how I built my business. It's not like I'm a freelancer. No, I have my own agreement that I wrote. I have my own pricing. I have my own funnel, a landing page, a newsletter, a system of emails that I send clients before they start working with me, a sales call, a LinkedIn profile, and it's clear who I'm working with and what is the service that I'm selling. I don't have employees, but I'm acting as a business owner, as opposed to a freelancer that does gigs and projects and they don't really have a differentiation and a clear vision ahead of them.
And that's the difference, right? If you want to build a business, it's so hard to build one if you don't also act like one and put the right system in place, like you mentioned, like having that funnel, building that reputation, and so on in order to attract the right client to you. And I want to touch a bit on the personal brand part. Since you build a strong personal brand for yourself, you're building strong personal brands for your clients. And we all know that in today day and age, it's so hard to build that trust with someone, to make someone to buy from you. And that's why using and leveraging a personal brand can be so powerful, because before someone purchases, they will Google your name. They'll search for your name, like what they can find there. And that personal brand that is popping up because of your posts on LinkedIn, your articles that you wrote, your podcast that you've been invited to, conference that you speak at, all those piles up. And I want to ask you, how do you start one if you are a thought leader in your space, but you simply didn't build one yet? You just postpone it, you just do your work, you go through your day to day things and just spend time in meetings and so on. How do you start building one so people will trust you even more and your company will grow even more?
Assuming that you don't have the time and assuming that the person in question is a founder, then obviously they need the help of a professional, because if they're all stuck in meetings all of the time, they wouldn't have the what I call mental availability to think about stories, to relate to their audience, to understand what their audience cares about, to write those stories in a compelling way, to be consistent with that effort, to engage, to send DMs, to think about their LinkedIn profile as a part of a longer funnel. A founder in this position shouldn't run their personal brand, just like they shouldn't run their logistics or their HR. They are already outsourcing this to other people because they're business owners, and their personal branding should be run by a professional like myself. And of course, I am biased here. This is what I believe. Just like when I want to fix my toilet, I'm going to the plumber. I'm not fixing myself. I'm not a professional in fixing toilets, right? There is no reason I'll do it myself. But if that plumber, CEO of Plumbing Empire, would want to build their personal brand, who they're going to call? Ghostwriter.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Like, we don't have to do everything ourselves. And asking for help is a superpower, because at the end of the day, we have just 24 hours. And if you're already busy, if you're already doing a lot of things, like writing on LinkedIn or creating content is not the thing that you want to do. And in the same time, there are individuals out there that they simply have the time.
Yep.
There are maybe solopreneurs or individuals that can squeeze in a few hours a day to work on that. And for example, I'm one of those.
Hmm.
Like, I run my personal brand myself, and I would like to take your perspective on that. How those individuals can start building their personal brand without overcomplicating things, without overthinking, and just doing it the right way.
Sure. So every strong personal brand divides into several buckets. One is what I call the personal bucket, my life and how I'm feeling living them. Another bucket is what is my ideology, what I think, what am I thinking about my business, and what are my opinions regarding the industry, and what things piss me off, what things excite me, what things I agree or disagree with. And then the third bucket is social proof, proving that I know what I'm doing. And so I would create simple systems for any one of those systems, as in content formats. Personal stories, just take pictures of yourself living your life, doing what you do, and start writing. And there are templates for that as well that you can grab. It's really easy. You can either get them for free or buy some. And what will happen then is that you will create your own writing style, because when you take a template, you change it. You have to. Otherwise, you're just copying and pasting, and you don't want to do that. When it comes to your ideology, simple text. Go full punk rock, share your opinions, make them as sharp as possible. Another option is to just go into Canva and design a carousel, really simple, and start writing with the design. You don't know how to design? Go and pay for a graphic designer one time. Pay them $100. They'll get you a template, a design template of a carousel, and you'll use this template on and on. That's what I'm doing. I have my own template. You know it, Gabe. It's a black background with bright blue and yellow text and some visuals on it. I'm not a designer. I couldn't design it myself. A designer designed it for me, and now I use it. Simple. And for social proof, it's even more simple. If you have a client, for instance, who is pleased of your work and you're a solopreneur, ask them to write something, whether it's anonymous or not anonymous, that doesn't matter. They can write you a message on Slack or WhatsApp, and then you screenshot it and you put it into Canva, into your designing template, and say, here's my social proof. Here's how I generated revenue for a client, for instance. And if they don't want their names to be seen, then just, hide their name. It's really easy in this regard. Of course, if you have more time, you can develop things further, but this is like the basics.
And it all starts there, right? Like that small steps to put a piece of content today, a piece of content tomorrow, and build that consistency. Because often I was in that trap as well. When I just started, I straight away hire a coach to help me be on camera, create video content, and so on. And even that led to something, this podcast, thanks to Dalton is his name. Was able to start this podcast. Still, I wasn't yet ready to create video content because it's so much harder, so much complex, and so on. And even that Dalton did an amazing job. Me personally, I wasn't prepared. And often when we think about creating content, we think, let's start directly here, start YouTube channel, I don't know, crush 1 hour long videos on YouTube and then move those in smaller shorts or reels. But that's complicated. That's hard. That takes a lot of time. But the path that you mentioned, starting small pieces of content, building that skill, because a lot of people don't understand how important it is to actually learn how to write the right way. You'll be much more clearer in your messaging, in the way you communicate with others. You build that skill that you basically can use anywhere. And that's something that LinkedIn helped me to do. I had a business before LinkedIn, like for I started like about 2 years ago to post somehow consistently. But 12 years before that, I ran a business without being on LinkedIn or other social media platforms active. And it's definitely possible. But without starting creating content on LinkedIn, I wouldn't build that skill. I wouldn't build a lot of connections. I wouldn't start this podcast. That's kind of the underrated power of it. And what other benefits you see both for you and your clients that start creating content consistently on LinkedIn?
So I have one client, like I told you earlier, who recruited an employee, a senior employee, to their company that generated revenue. I have another client that got an investor interested in their startup. I had another client who went viral, and then after he went viral, in all sorts of meetings that they had with potential clients in the real world, physically, those clients said, we loved your post about this, and that warmed them up to sign the deal. So it's not like lead generation, right? It's deeper. And
Exactly.
it leads me to something. As a LinkedIn ghostwriter, I'm saying this, and of course to anyone else who's listening, I think there is a hype on write content and get leads. And I'm not saying that it's impossible. It happens to me, and I'm sure, Gabe, that it also happens to you quite a lot. But it's not a machine, it's a personal brand ultimately. And I think it's best to think not about I'm writing content, a person presses on a button and they book a call. I think the best way to think about it is I write content, something moves in the heart of the reader, and I reach out to the reader and we form a relationship, and then something happens.
Exactly. Because that's the thing, right? Like that emotional connection, that human touch at the end of the day is the one that connects people and make people buy rather than, oh, if I'll do this consistently for a certain amount of time for certain role. Yes, it might work, but the thing that actually move the needles are those emotions. And speaking of emotions, how do you leverage those in your content and your clients' content in order to ensure that you truly connect? Do you have a certain approach to it?
Basically, what I do is that I transcribe the calls with the clients, and then I take on all of the emotional expressions that they said and I turn it into the main idea of the post, primarily through the hook. And with clients, what I tell them is that if they are recording their calls with their clients, and I think they must, then what we do is we sign an NDA because I'm getting exposed to that material. And of course, I'm not, releasing it anywhere else. That's why I signed the NDA. And then I see, oh, all right, your client said that they're bothered about not making enough dollars from their investments, for example. Let's write about that because this is what the client is saying. And so it is battle tested because it's actually based on what people say in real life. It's not a matter of going to ChatGPT and asking questions. It's a matter of really getting into the bottom of it, of what people actually say. And if you don't have access to those calls, go on Reddit. People there are unfiltered and they're in pain. They're in enormous pain over there on Reddit, and they're unhinged. And when they're going like that, you can see, all right, this is what everybody's thinking, but they're not saying. What will happen if I'll now write it? Or if you want to go more intellectual, more the educational side, go on Quora and see what people are asking, what kind of answers are they getting, and what is missing on these answers, and then fill that gap in your content.
And this is not only a powerful approach to actually leverage what basically your ideal clients might ask for or might share with you, but as well can answer the question like, what do I post today? Or
Yeah.
how do I start? You just got the answer from Ophir. Like literally go and see what people are saying or ask questions, a lot of questions during your calls with your clients or prospects. All those questions and answers will lead to literally thousands of ideas of content. That's why I don't understand why people keep on saying, I don't know what to post. Like, I don't have any ideas. There are thousands of ideas that you can grab like in few minutes. And probably my favorite ones are those that are literally the words of my clients because they know best what they struggle with, what bottleneck they need to solve, what their fears, what they want, but really want, not something that is nice to have and so on. Because that might be the information you get from them. Like in my case, I need a website, I need more clients. But if I go deeper with question, I really understand that they actually need help with someone else, like building that foundation, actually identify who they really want to serve, how they want to serve them, what the actual results they bring to their clients, how they deliver that results, even before you build the offers, and of course at the end build the actual sales funnels and so on. That it's so underrated to ask questions, not only for getting ideas but to really understand your clients, because then you build true relationship, you serve them better and so on. Speaking of serving and helping others, I want you to tell me a real fulfilling moment after you saw your client succeed.
So one of my clients, they went viral in 30 days, and I didn't promise them that. Obviously, I didn't know that the post is going to become viral. I knew it's going to be popular for sure. I knew there is going to be some sort of an engagement there, but I couldn't foresee that there will be 100,000 views and 1,200 likes and so on. And so when that happened, my client was overjoyed. They didn't know that LinkedIn is capable of these numbers, and they were over the moon. And that was the moment when they started believing in LinkedIn, because they started working with me and they were like, yeah, I know that LinkedIn is important, but it never worked for me. And then they moved from that perception into LinkedIn works. And that was a moving moment.
Yeah, it is, right? Like when that happens, never happened to me, but I know a lot of individuals that literally change their approach to building their personal brand and their business. It's such an amazing moment. And I want to put myself in the shoes of those that say, like, all right, Ophir, this looks really nice and everything, but I have no idea where to start. Okay, I can get ideas from Reddit or Quora. I can ask my clients and so on, but I don't have a strategy. I don't have the right step by step approach in order to start building my personal brand. And I don't have the money to hire someone to do it for me. If someone is in that position, what would be your step by step advice for them in order to start from that and go to the individual that is posting consistently and attracting opportunities?
When it comes to the strategy, it all boils down to the business and offer, assuming that there is a business in question. And, if they already have their offer figured out, great. If not, then the best strategy would be to turn the person and their knowledge and their learnings into the main magnet of the profile. And so non obligating, because you can share stories and put yourself in the front without selling something, without having an offer. I call it the educational player on LinkedIn. Someone who says, I post about wellness and sustainability, and they post their opinions about it and their personal stories from their lives. And they don't have an offer yet. And that's fine because they're building an audience. And once they figure it out, they will release that offer on LinkedIn. And then there will be the time and place to talk with clients and do the market research and all of the deeper strategic stuff. But if the focus is on just starting, then turn yourself into the product. Turn your ideas and personal stories from your own life and ask yourself, what happened to me today? What happened to me last week? What irritated me? What excited me? What annoyed me? And start answering these questions for yourself. And then you'll have a lot of, answers, opinions, and stories. And all of the sudden, when you have that, then you can start on top of that sharing your offer. If you already have an offer, we are in the realm of business oriented personal brand strategy. As in, let's think about the clients, let's think about their pain points, let's think about the actions that we want them to take, let's think about how the content is going to be built layer by layer. This is a more advanced period, and that's what I help doing, both as a ghostwriter and as a consultant. But if it's not the case and you're just you and you have no clue what to do with your LinkedIn in, let's say, 3 to 6 months, you better have a following and a loyal base of likers and commentators and people who want to meet and see you, that then you can pivot to what you want.
Indeed, right? Because at the end of the day, some followers are better than no followers.
Right.
And instead of second guessing yourself, like, I don't have an offer, I don't have something to sell right now, I don't have something to, I don't know, just start building. Because that thing that you mentioned, and I think it's for those that struggle to get to niche down, to find their ideal client, often cases, ourselves are basically our past selves are the ideal client. Because at some point in the past, we solve a problem for us. Either it's a business problem, a life problem. And I have so many examples between my clients that are, for example, they solved their social anxiety in the past and then they help others solve it right now. They had no idea how to get clients. They solved that for themselves and now help others getting clients. Or many other examples. And just by that, you can identify what content to create about, how to go and start building your personal brand. And as you well mentioned, like you live a life, like you have those small experiences, those things that happens daily to you. Just leverage those. I think I write on a daily basis like at least 10 ideas for content, because you encounter them either in other people comments, other people replies, questions, things that happens to you. So there's endless opportunities just to get going.
And I'll
But
tell
I
you
want to
something
address
else.
another.
I'll tell you something else
Please.
about ideal clients. The decision of who is the ideal client should occur way before working on a LinkedIn strategy. It means that if you have a business, then you're supposed to have a service even before you have a LinkedIn profile.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it means that if you don't know who is your ideal client, LinkedIn is not going to solve that problem necessarily. What it is going to do is raise awareness to you as the person. And then when you have followers and when you have support, you can say, all right, now I'm going to help, just for the sake of the example, engineers. All right, now I'm going to network with engineers. Now I'm going to write for engineers, not only, but also for engineers, and I'm going to change my profile accordingly. Or I want to work with team leaders. All right, that's another pivot, but you're not starting from scratch. And that's what people are missing. Social media, and LinkedIn in particular, are awareness oriented platforms. As a marketer, I know what the funnel is. I'm not sure that everyone who listening know exactly what the funnel is. So maybe funnel is not the correct term necessarily. Let's call it the matrix, maybe, or Alice in Wonderland, because these are layers of consciousness. And you start by getting to know the person, right? Know that they exist. Then you start feeling something towards them, and then you're doing an action. And so there are all sorts of messages that you can, deliver through your channels. And there is also the psychology of how much this person is trusting, and did I get them to say yes or not? And so I think that people are confusing this term of the funnel with the medium. I mean, social media is the place for people to shine, for personal stories, for opinions. Beyond anything else, including what I call the businessy, pain agitating content, there is time and place for that, but it can only succeed if you already built a following, if you already have a tribe around you, and that works only with personal stories and opinions, something with juice, something with emotions, something with humanity. And if you want to have, 100% salesy content, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but even in a newsletter, you don't sell 100% of the time. You need to give value and educate. And when it comes to paid ads, even there, not all paid ads are for sales. Well, some of them, of course, are, but not all of them. You know, it doesn't exist anywhere. So be aware of what people are trying to sell you and focus on building those relationships. Because if you just shout in a wall, you're saying all the smart business things, and you end up shouting at a wall and getting 2 to 3 likes, then you've done nothing. You know, tell about that life changing trip that you had, get those 50 likes, and then message these 50 likes. Do it every day. You'll build a business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there you build the relationships in those conversations, and through connecting with those emotions in your content and sharing those stories, because you need to connect in some form or another, rather than just trying to sell every single day, trying to just push only sales lead posts rather than building that awareness. Because a lot of people don't, yeah, they're not ready to buy.
Right.
They just there to know you better, connect with you, and who knows, maybe at some point in the future they might need your help. And I think that's a huge misunderstanding when it comes to marketing, that people think I'll just create content, I'll just send 10 newsletters, I'll just create the perfect sales funnels, create a perfect ad, and leads will pour in and I'll get a lot of clients. But it doesn't work that way. You really need to build relationships, you really need to build trust with your whatever you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to tell two anecdotes in this context. Well, the first anecdote is that my girlfriend is working, like I said, for a company, and that company is paid ads agency. And their clients, even though they are getting leads from the paid ads on Meta and Google, they approached the manager and they said, listen, we also want personal branding. We also want organic content that will speak in a broader term and will go beyond our target clients, but also to their families and their friends and people in the same country. And that is after they got leads, not before. So this anecdote proves that paid ads, bottom of the funnel content, not enough. You also need to have the top of the funnel. You need to raise awareness. You do that with personal branding. You do that with organic content. Another anecdote is that I'm getting 2 to 3 leads every week. And yes, they are organic. They are from my newsletter or LinkedIn, but it's not that it is guaranteed. I came to that situation after a year and a half, almost two actually, of hard work, of building that following, of building relationships, building rapport with my followers, so that I brought my brand to the situation that it gets me those achievements. But if people stand with a stopper and trying to, calculate how long it takes, don't do that. Just let it happen. If it takes a year, if it takes 2 years, so be it. You know, I didn't stop after a year. I didn't say I'm not getting anything, so I'll just quit. No, you need to give yourself time to turn a social media channel into something that generates relationships, revenue, partnerships.
Absolutely, because nothing great happens overnight. And I personally don't know any single individual, of course, if they didn't win the lottery or bet on something or whatever, that got successful literally in a short period of time. You need time to build anything, personal brand, business, a life, and so on. And I want to ask you, those that listen to you and resonate with what you're saying and they want to start interacting with you and connecting with you, hiring you, of course, they can find you on LinkedIn, but there's any other place where they can get in touch?
I have a newsletter as well, and I have a free resource that anyone who signs up are getting. It's a 10-minute video guide in which I analyze posts that attracted followers and leads, because, like I said, it's possible to get leads from organic content with hard work. And you can also reach out in my email, an email address that you have, Gabe, so you can also share that with the listeners. And I have a website also. It's ophirtal.com. And anyone who wants to hire me as a ghostwriter, they go to that website. They can read what I wrote about the process. They can read testimonials and they can book a call with me there.
And obviously, I'll put the links as well in the show notes for those listening or watching. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and tips today. I want to end up with a challenge for those listening. Tell them what they can do in less than 1 week to actually put those stepping stones in building their personal brand.
Go to your phone and write 7 exciting, annoying, mesmerizing, flattering, funny things that happen to you. Then start writing freely. And after you write freely, ask, why would the reader care? What will they learn from that? How will they be better off after reading that? And then go and write these posts.
Nice. Short and sweet. That's the type of challenge that I love hearing because you don't need to spend an entire year or
Not
month
at all.
applying it. You can do it in literally less than 1 hour. Thank you so much, Ophir. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on. And thanks again for sharing your knowledge with us.
With pleasure. It was fun.